Hello everyone, and welcome to the War Thunder official channel. My name is Michael Zoom. I'm joined here by Tom, aka Oxy, and today it is time to check out the new content in the upcoming update called Alpha Strike. We are on the internal testing server, and we're going to be showing you some of the new content, not everything. You'll have plenty of time to figure some of the stuff out by yourself, in fact, in the upcoming dev server, which will also open soon. So, let's get right into it. Let's start with the US.
Absolutely. I can show you the 120S, which is a very, it's like a little chibi M60. I think it's quite sweet. So basically, you have the turret of the M1A1 on a late pattern hull, and it's a bit strange because it does have the mobility of the M60. I'll give you a little drive around with it. So really, you've got pretty good firepower. It maintains the same really good reload of the Abrams. But in terms of mobility, you don't quite have that same really impressive mobility the Abrams has. So it feels a bit weird. But pop it behind a hill and you've basically got like a fundamentally identical offensive vehicle to the M1A1. So that's pretty good, but in terms of hull protection, not so great. Currently right now it does have Gen 2 thermals. It's going to have the regular Gen 1, like the previous standard Abrams. But yeah, in terms of mobility, not that impressed. But for Tenno, you've got this gun with this turret, which is overall pretty good. There's not much going on in the hull, so you do have a lot of negative space, so you can potentially tank a couple of shots there. But yeah, it's a nice, weird little vehicle to have. Good for lineups. I mean, it's going to work well beyond its BR as well, because you do have that firepower, which is always going to be great. But yeah, in terms of survivability, not so much, and it is just weird having an Abrams this slow. But yeah, it's got decent pros and cons. I think it's a nice little vehicle to have.
I can see one major issue with it immediately. You could sleep in the turret ring gap.
That is yeah, it's a hefty neck going on there. So yeah, same weak spot as the regular Abrams, but you also have the massive hull as well. But not much ammo going on. I assume those racks are going to be emptied when you take less ammo out. So yeah, it's got pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses. Nice to have at 10, I reckon.
This is one of the vehicles you can look up. You can look forward to in the upcoming updates. I believe the M122S will be into Tech Tree, right?
Yep, Tech Tree.
Can you show the position of it?
Yes, it's in the sort of prototypey USMC side, so it comes after the TTS in Rank 7.
Very nice. Alright, next up we have one that has been long awaited and has just been announced in a devlog. Welcome to the game, the F20A. This is, well, an evolution really of the F5. This was in competition with the F16, only a couple of prototypes were made. The F16 of course ended up winning out the competition, but this was essentially an attempt to use some of the existing components of the F5, modernize them, give them access to better weaponry and a much better engine to make a small fighter. And in fact, it does have access to some pretty interesting stuff. You have access to up to 6 AIM-9Ls, huge upgrade over the previous F5 series, which could only carry 2 on the wingtips. And you also have a radar and access to the AIM-7F. However, do keep in mind, if you take out the radar missiles, you do lose the double slot of AIM-9Ls, and you don't have access to any more advanced missiles like the AIM-9M. You do still have access to your Mavericks, so the B-type. You also have access to the 30mm gun pod that you can also find on the F5. No guided bombs. Sadly, you have some regular bombs over here, which you can use, of course, given that this is, in fact, a premium aircraft. You can use it to do, well, all your grinding, in fact. In fact, this is the first rank 8 premium aircraft that we are going to have in the game. I'm going to show you quickly how this thing performs in a battle. Oh, something new as well. RRB players, rejoice! We now have a fuel slider.
Hooray!
It's been years. You now can exactly determine how much fuel you want to take into your battle. Pretty much customizable from minimum fuel load to maximum fuel load. Of course, you do still have access to the old menu selection if you want to use that. Let's say, for example, we just want to check out the performance at minimum fuel. I will also leave it completely empty. I just want to see the raw performance of the aircraft itself.
Very cool.
I'm kind of mixed feelings about this one. See, on one hand, the F-20 is one vehicle that I've always wanted to see in the game. On the other hand, I also have a feeling this will be a bit of an easy kill for experienced top-tier air players.
I think it looks cool. It's got a sleek little design, and I'm quite a simple person, so I like things that look nice, really. So, all good in my book on that front. Yeah.
We are playing in realistic mode, by the way, so all the stats, all the performance you see here is in realistic mode. Although do keep in mind, of course, as with all dev streams, as with all previous streams, nothing you see here is final. This is work in progress. You can see the big bold text right above my head. Keep it in mind when looking at bat ratings, armament options, performance, everything like that in general. Now, this chassis can go up to around Mach 1.15 on sea level. It can push further than that, but you are at the risk of breaking your wings off. In fact, it is giving me a warning to do just that. So let's go up. Let's try about a 45-degree climb, I would say.
Such a small plane with such a chunky engine.
It is, yeah. This is like strapping yourself to a rocket, essentially. Got a nice little interior, some MFD screens as well. We are holding our speed very, very, very well in this climb, still doing Mach with 1.05. In fact, let's go even further. Let's go full vertical.
That's going to be... It's quite a forgiving platform, I think. So...
It is rapid. The power to weight ratio on this wing is absolutely insane. Thankfully, since it does still share some similarities to the previous F5 series, it is also pretty maneuverable. And of course, the at high altitudes are not going to have the greatest of chances with maneuvering, so let's go back down. Keep in mind, the flare count is a little bit limited on this aircraft. You only have 45 flares, which is very much below average, especially for this kind of battle rating. Something that you do need to keep in mind. And as far as I'm aware, there's no option of mounting additional flare pods, at least for the time being. Alright, even at supersonic speeds you can still do 12 Gs, that is not bad at all actually.
That's very forgiving.
Let's go a little bit lower, I will deploy my air brake, see what we can do subsonically. And I think where this aircraft is going to shine most is in energy retention. Since it has such a light airframe, such a small airframe, and such a powerful engine, I have a feeling you will be able to turn for quite a while. 13G, let's reset our G lock. 14G? Again, keep in mind the flight model may be placeholder. It may in fact break its wings off at these kind of turns when it comes to the live server. But energy retention is not bad. Okay, we're losing a bit of speed here. You have some AOA issues. But we're maintaining around 500 kilometers per hour.
Pretty good.
That's not bad at all. We can also deploy flaps, which will bleed our speed off a little bit more, but look at the tight turn. For a jet, this is not bad at all.
Very nice.
And now, acceleration. Yeah. Fair to say this thing is going to be nasty. Imagine an F5 on steroids, because that is essentially what the F20 will be. But, enough of F20. We have more things to explore, so let's check out what Germany has on offer.
My favorite thing is just crust German stuff. And this is like peak crust German. This is the... Say the line?
Zerstörer 45.
Absolutely. So this is one of Germany's final anti-air projects. So there's a lot of... well, it's quite an obscure anti-air vehicle. It's sort of designed around the same time as the Oswin 2. And yeah, the final version, which you may see if you Google it, is has the whirlwind turret. But it was never fitted into that, was what was the projection for it. But it was, this flak setup was tested on the Mobilwagen, which means something weird, doesn't it?
It's furniture van.
Yeah, so it was tested on this platform, 2 of them, I think. And so that's the version that we have in game. So these are the MK103s, the high-velocity versions, which are pretty lethal. But as you can see, in terms of survivability, not really, it's not very well protected. You can, though, put these screens up, at least on the sides, which you're not really going to want to do, because obviously that's going to really cut into your angles. You know, a low pass from an aircraft can strafe you out. If you're getting attacked from the ground, you can't fire back unless you're firing directly from the front. So yeah, it's not going to be too useful to have this up. It also isn't the most well armored either. But even so, you've got a quad MK103 mount, Reload's pretty good currently, also this may change, but you do have the belt of the full HVAP. So in terms of going after tanks as well, you do have a lot of potential, but it's incredibly fragile. It's going to get overpressured and splashed by rockets really, really easily. But offensively, really strong, so that's going to be nice for later lineups. We do also have a new 109 in the current year.
Yes,
Incredible. So this is the C1 version of the 109. This was came during the 30s when they realized the B version didn't quite have enough firepower, because the previous B version just has the machine guns in the nose, and this one crams some into the wings as well. It's a bit of a struggle because the early wings did not really want to accommodate for extra guns, but it's going to be pretty nice. It's a bit more forgiving in terms of firepower. I think the early 109s, they're not the most powerful, but they're pretty powerful as far as lower tier, like sub 2.0 planes go. But the lack of spread and the lack of firepower did hurt it a little bit. Basically, the B1 had a biplane armament, but the extra spread on this one is going to help out a lot. But as you can see from the speed, it's still not the most, the quickest model, and it's going to suffer a little bit, especially if it's caught on low energy. But it's going to be a nice sort of gap between the B and the first E model, so nice.
I like kind of the early 109s. It's a nice jump in speed over the
nice.
biplanes that you get before.
It's a cool one, so nice to have it.
But Germany, rejoice! It's not the only plane you get in this update. No, a rare moment! You get two! This is the Alpha Jet. In fact, well, you can guess why the update is named the way it is. This is a light attack jet aircraft, also used as a trainer. As you can see, it's the twin-seater. Currently occupying a battle rating of 9.0. Now, this aircraft does not have any countermeasures. You also don't have any guided munitions. However, you do have a 27mm cannon with 150 rounds. So you have access to the Mighty Mouse rockets, a decent amount of them, and also a few bombs. So this should be a nice light attack option that you can use in ground RB, as well as in air RB. If you want to go for bases, you can carry the incendiary bombs, which are enough to take down one base by itself. And then still have a fairly fast barraging, fairly maneuverable light aircraft to do gun runs on enemy aircraft with. You got access to a ground target belt. The maximum penetration you can expect here is 64mm with the armored target belt. And interestingly also, you both have a semi-armor piercing high explosive incendiary shell, as well as an APHE shell. So if you find a, for example, IFV in a ground RB battle, this should be fairly effective.
Yeah, I think so. Good enough.
Should be fairly decent. The position it occupies in the tech tree is as thus, right after the G91 R3. And don't worry, Germany is not actually the only country getting the Alpha Jet. We have another one shortly, but first, let's check out what the USSR has on offer.
Yep, so I can show you the M4 Shilka. This is a later version, and functionally in terms of the main cannon armor that it usually has, it's exactly the same. But it has 4 Iglas at the back. Only 4 of them, you can't reload them currently. So yeah, it's a nice kind of gap to bridge between the first Shilka and the Strela, which is nice. So you've got a nice lineup at 9.3 and it fits pretty well in there. A bit more forgiving with that as well. It's nice. I like anti-air vehicles to have a bit of both. And this one certainly has. Model's quite cool as well. In terms of protection, it's mostly superficial in terms of the extra bits that it has. Looks pretty cool. Looks sleek, modernized version. And yeah, nice to have it really, it fits well.
Where is the SU?
You're looking at something a bit more...
Just trying to take off here. Famously hard for me. I'm very surprised I didn't crash into a tree just yet. We have a new SU-25 model. This is the SU-25 TM something, I forgot the name, I'm sorry. The SU-25 SM3. This is a upgraded SU-25, this time with proper thermal vision for your guided weapons. This should be an absolute beast in ground RB. Also, because it gets access to a new missile. This is the KH-38M, I believe. There are 2 variants in-game. One is laser guided and one is TV guided, so entirely fire and forget. Let's have a quick look around. Oh, also, we have something new. Oh, not that. Sorry. We have a new, okay, not on this one, it's on the TV guide mission. We have a new interface, actually, in third person for tracking and acquiring targets, which also means that you no longer absolutely need to go into the thermal targeting pod to aim your missiles, your TV missiles. You can actually do it in third person and move them with the camera.
Pretty nice.
Alright, let's see if we can actually get a lock on here. I'm going to go for this guy.
What?
It will track moving targets, absolutely no issue.
Here's a
The missiles do a bit of lofting as well if you fire them at further ranges. I'm not sure what the exact maximum range of these missiles is, but they should be fairly effective at dealing with SBA, especially since you do have now the thermal targeting pod, which for Soviet vehicles is a bit unheard of, really.
It's a chunky missile.
Alright, let's see if we can do a lock on a moving vehicle over there. Yeah, you can see pretty well. It's not the highest resolution, absolutely, but it's fairly workable. 5 kilometer range, or rather 5 kilometer distance on here. The missile does a bit of lobbing, kind of like a KH-29. And it has fairly decent power as well. We're going to go over the stats in a second in the hangar. Let's have a quick look at the cockpit. Oh yeah, by the way, it does have a bit of web. It will overspeed if you go in a straight line, much like some of the previous SU-55s. You need to pay attention to that. And you of course also have an RWR system. Okay, let's quickly go back to the hangar and check out the stats of the new missiles here.
Oh god.
This is a tech-3 aircraft, by the way. It will occupy the position right after the Su-25T. In fact, it is the ultimate evolution here, as far as what we have in game. Large amount of countermeasures as well. That is very nice to see. In terms of armaments, it is your pretty standard Su-25 armament. You do have access to the R-73 anti-air missile if you are inclined to, well, not really hunt enemy aircraft, but at least defend yourself. You have access to TV-guided bombs, as well as this new missile, the KH-38. Both in TV guidance, IR guidance, as well as in laser guidance modes. And of course, still have access to your KH-29, both in thermal and in L variants. This should be fairly good for ground RV. With the RWR and the thermal vision, you can try and engage SBA from further ranges. Okay, so there's another vehicle we have here in the lineup. You'll have to check out the
Gotta save some
our-
stuff.
Yeah, so you'll have to check out the stream of our colleagues, which will be later on today to check that out. Alright, next up we have the UK.
It's time to rejoice, Bongs. Finally, little fox friend. So this is nice. I don't know exactly how strong it's going to be, but it's really nice to have it. So this is the Fox, very quick, very nimble, like it needs to be. Has the same gun as the Warrior, effectively. So you only have these two belts, have the OPDS. Pretty strong in terms of pen, but for 7.0, I mean, I think it's one of those vehicles that I think works better in up tiers, because knocking out a Tiger II with that is going to be hard. Knocking out a Leopard is going to be easy. So it works beyond its VR, but doesn't have a stabilizer, so that is going to catch you out. You need to plan your routes pretty well. Want to ambush with it? Great. I think small vehicles are great for that because it's quite easy to miss them. So it's going to be pretty nice for that. In terms of protection, there's no point even showing you. I mean, you already know it's incredibly basically. But it's very reactive. Obviously, I have it on a very top crew, but you've got a really fast turret rotation. It can basically fire infinitely. There's no real long reload for it. It's got the same reloading as the Warrior. Nice to have, works beyond its PR. Currently, it's in the far right line, so it's not in the same line as the Warrior. I think it's after the Rhino at the
Show it in
moment.
the tech.
Yes. Yeah, so after the Eland and the Rhino right now. This may change, but that's where it is currently. Nice. So what are you doing?
Well, I would say we should probably check the mobility of that on our new map. Also featuring a new helicopter. This is the Wessex Mark V, Wessex HU or Mark V. You may notice it's fairly similar to the H-34 you can find in the American tree. In fact, that is basically what it is. Although, instead of a radial engine, you do now have access to a jet engine, or rather a pair of jet engines, which gives it a little bit more power. In fact, for a helicopter that looks this primitive, it is fairly quick. And we have access to a new missile. Hold on, I need to... Oh, I didn't set it to Kimas here. Ah! Fine. We have two different kinds of missiles. You can carry up to 4 of the AS-11s, which have around 600 millimeters of penetration. I think a little bit lower than that. We can check the stats in a second in the hangar itself. But we also have access to the new AS-12, which you can only carry 2 of. But those have a 6 kilometer range And 1,000 millimeters of penetration.
So
At battle rating number, I believe this helicopter currently occupies. Should be fairly decent. But let's have a look at this new map. So this is the New Holland map. It is somewhat reminiscent of the Eastern Europe map with the oh, fluffy cats.
Best
Beautiful.
city.
It is a little bit reminiscent of the Eastern Europe map with the river that goes through the town. You can actually drive through the river. It is shallow enough for you to be able to drive your tanks through it. And there are a few interesting Easter eggs. Tom will be showing the perspective on the ground in a second. There's a weird, well, district with some red lights. I'm really not sure what that is
Don't worry about
about.
it. I wouldn't.
It's weird anyway. There's a nice church. Yeah, you got a nice church. You got some fountains. You got some nice statues over there. And Tom, whereabouts are you actually?
I'm near the mall.
Ah, the mall. You mean this mall, perhaps?
I do.
This mall
That's
that
the same one.
seems strangely open.
Yeah, so this is really quite cool. It's a sort of, obviously there's like a bit of conflict going on here, but this building you can actually go inside of. And you can explore the insides. It reminds me of, what's that one, like, liminal space in the bookshop? Kind of reminds me of that. But you can go all the way in here, and there's a lot of destructibility. You can actually drive through a lot of areas in it. And so even though on the map here it is like a big obstacle, you can basically drive through it at almost any angle. Hello?
You saw nothing, it's fine.
I saw nothing. We'll ignore it. So yeah, I like this. You can go all the way through it. It's not really directly in the middle. We're on the battle version right now, but in the other, the cap version, I don't believe there's anything sort of dependent on it. But you can. There's lots of different ways to go through it and sort of progress deeper into the map. Lots of different areas. I don't know if you can drive up the escalators to the higher level. I don't think you
I
can.
haven't tried, I don't think so.
You can probably like jam something.
I mean, where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
feel like
But
Britain's gonna
I like
get a
this.
lot of
It's nice. There's lots of little places you can hide.
here.
And it's just kind of interesting to have an area like this in a War Thunder map. Just having, because there's not really any interior places. So that's really interesting.
There were also some new combat that I saw, like a something that hexagonania, yes, and a bargain from the people. I think it's a cricket.
Fluffy cats
something like
again.
that. Fluffy
Big.
cats, yes, very nice.
Absolutely.
Also, can I just mention the fox is going to be an absolute gremlin on this tank, on this map. You can play such hide and seek. on
Yeah,
that mall.
it's the really good size for that. That's the thing with small vehicles, is that when you're kind of scanning and looking for tanks, like vehicles that are really small, you don't really process them in the same way. So you can like hide behind stuff that most of the tanks can't.
It
So-
basically looks like a car as well.
Yeah, it's got like, in terms of height, it's much lower, so you can definitely do some weird stuff with it, but yeah, in terms of like directional mobility in the like the close range, like dogfighting with it, it's not that great for maneuvering and turning around. But you're very quick. Turret traverse obviously is really, really quick, so you can react to new threats pretty quickly. You can, you know, pseudo anti-air with it if you want. But yeah, the fire rate, same as the warrior. You can basically keep going and keep going. Yeah, no stabilizer on the move. It gets a little bouncy, so if you meet something else on the move, likely you're going to get clicked on first before you can find a weak spot. So positioning well is going to be really important with it. But yeah, for the up tiers or for maps where your slower vehicles don't work quite as well, it's going to be perfect. So it's a nice little option to have for sure. Little friend.
Very nice.
UD's probably gonna be 12,
Since we are on this map, let's have a quick look at the missile options that I was talking about earlier on the Wessex. So this is the base missile that you get, 600 millimeters of penetration, 3 kilometer launch range. It's alright for the tier. But then you have these ones, 1000 millimeters of penetration, 6 kilometers range. Pretty damn decent. Interesting enough, we have something else here as well. The Buccaneer S2B is joining the game as well. This is the ultimate version of the Buck. You got access to the AIM-9L missiles. You do have some countermeasures, I believe, as well. And you have a vast array of unguided bombs, as well as guided bombs. And a new missile, the AJ-168. Let's quickly check this out. The AJ-168 is a subsonic missile, so it will take a while to get anywhere, but you have access to a targeting pod, which sadly you can't change the zoom, you don't have thermals, it's a black and white pod. I think it's an infrared pod, something like that. But these missiles are TV guided, so they can actually acquire targets on their own. And they have a fairly long range. So if I fire, for example, at that A point, which is over 9 kilometers away now, I should... if it wants to target... oh yeah, there's the new target marker as well, by the way.
That's gonna be nice.
There we go. Okay, we got a little bit too close there, but you can see the missile go off. It's not the fastest, it doesn't loft, it doesn't do anything like that, but it's a very long burn time. I think, according to the stack card, a 45 kilometer range, although I don't think it will ever be able to reach quite that far. But it does have a over 170 seconds of guidance time and a fairly slow burning but long sustaining missile.
I don't like it.
It messes with my brain. I don't like the air brake on this thing.
I think I mentioned it on the first time we showed it. It's just, it reminds me of like an insect egg. I'm not a fan.
It is a bit weird. Anyway, other than that, it's basically your standard Buccaneer. Don't expect to do any dogfighting with this, even though you have access to the AIM-9. It will not be doing that well. You do have flares, although not too many, only 30, so do keep that in mind. And the missiles, what they have a fairly long range, the targeting, the tracking isn't exactly the most reliable, and they're also not very maneuverable. They do have a fair amount of explosive filler. In fact, let's go back to the hangar and check out the stats.
That's pretty hefty.
But don't expect to be doing any close range fighting with this, especially also because the targeting pods only has one zoom level. It is fairly zoomed in, you cannot zoom out to, you know, have less of a tunnel vision. Alright, so these are the stats of this new missile. You got 88 kilograms of TNT equivalent, fairly decent. You may need to get a direct hit to reliably guarantee a kill, but it is enough explosive filler to get some splash damage. Especially if you find a group of IVs or something like that. Fairly long range, 45 kilometer launch range. Wouldn't expect to go quite that far, but you have a 175 second missile guidance time. And of course, if you don't want to mess with the missiles, you can also bring your laser guided bombs, which you can use in top-down attacks. Or you can even bring a combination of them, although you will need both of the pods. Keep that in mind. In terms of factory position, it will occupy the slot right after the previous Buccaneer S2. Alright, that is it for the UK. Next up we have Japan.
Yep. So I can briefly show you the Type 90 Fuji. So effectively it's a cosmetically different Type 90B, basically. So I don't think there's anything really different about it, which I mean makes for pretty good premium. Japan don't have many options, and so I think it's fine. It doesn't really take anything away from the tech tree while giving you an option to blast through Japan if you want. Gonna have a good lineup. It's a really nice vehicle on its own, and yeah, so it's not really the most forgiving in terms of positioning for a top tier vehicle, but offensively it's incredibly strong. Obviously, you're not hindered by the reload. Got good firepower. It's really good in that regard, but in terms of getting clicked on, it's pretty easy. So, but yeah, it's a great vehicle. It makes for a pretty good sort of nudge into top tier. Not really too much else to say. Obviously, you have the camo netting, and I think it does have a special skin pre-ordering it, but I don't think we've got that ready yet. Yeah, you can get some nice stuff.
You can also remove the camo.
You can, yep. So for all the same with a lot of these, you can just take it off if you want.
Considering the
And see all the decals underneath.
it like an anime skin or some shit.
Type 90B.
Alright, okay. People, chat. Are you here? Are you woken up? Are you awake? Wake up, wake up. Wake up, we have boats. Chat, wake up.
It's boat time, Mike.
It is indeed. This is the IGN Mutsu. Well, it has the biggest guns in the game now.
Yeah.
410mm cannons. You have a total of 8 of them. However, you don't have pure HE shells. So you have the SAP, which has 48 kilograms of a TNT equivalent. It's actually less than some of the other battleships with lower caliber cannons. But you have a very, very powerful AP shell here with 732mm missile penetration at 1 kilometer distance.
Yes.
And this should be fairly decent at dealing with heavily armored enemy battleships. Absolutely. Oh, also something else. You have 24 fairly good Japanese torpedoes. 65 kilometers per hour in the water is fairly quick with a 7 kilometer range. Definitely something you can use at closer ranges as well. Alright, so let's move on to China. China gets a new IFV. we have the ZBD-04A. This is, in terms of playstyle, similar to the BMP-3. You have a 100mm launcher slash gun in as your main armament, as well as a 30mm coax. You have access to APFSDS for the 30mm, as well as a selection of other rounds for the 100mm. You got access to thermal sights, scout. It classifies as a light tank, so you can scout the enemy. You have a laser warning receiver, which is also fairly useful, and should overall provide a decent backup to the Chinese lineup at this bat rating. In terms of position, it is right after the PTL-02 in the tech tree, just before the ZLT-11. Also, quickly check out the reverse speed. 70 km per hour is not
Acceptable.
too bad. It's okay. You can work with that. Only 3 crews, sadly, so any penetrating hit on the turret will spell your doom.
Let's have a lot of sort of stuff in the way of the fighting compartment, though. So you could possibly tank a few weaker shells there. One-shotting it through the turret might be a bit hard, but it's also very tall. I think it's deceptively tall for what it is. Like, it's a very...
It is very boxy, yeah.
Yeah. So not quite as stealthy as the BMP-3, I guess, but offensively pretty good. It's got the better darts.
Lots of empty space in the back as well.
Yeah, so there's some potential for surviving with it, but yeah, I wouldn't count on it.
Up to 12 times zoom.
3 BM60.
And of course, your thermal vision as well, which the thermals apply to only the gunner, no tank commander thermals. Alright, next up we have Italy.
We do, indeed. So I can show you the Centauro RGO. Basically, much like a lot of the premiums, it's very, very similar. The only real difference, or the main one, you've got a different, well, you've got a shield for a machine gun, and the turret armor is a little better as well. It's not going to change too much. You're not going to be able to stop any, well, main shells. What you do have is slightly better protection against autocannons. So, again, it's probably not going to save you. They can still get through, but it may give you that extra, like, half a second to click on what you're fighting. So, a bit different. It's a bit heavier, though, as well, so that's going to impact too. But in terms of the vehicle for what it is, you've got a really good reload, great mobility. The gun is very, very forgiving. Thermals are good. It's got a lot of agency around the map, but I just find sort of changing direction really hard when I've been playing it. But yeah, it works on lots of maps, works well wherever you're going to put it, really. Mobility is one of the most important things to have for tanks, especially around the high BRs. You can do a lot with it. It's a really nice vehicle.
The Centauros are also just some damn good looking vehicles.
They are. They look mean. It's a nice look. Bomb front.
That is a weird amount of new aircraft you have in that lineup as well.
Yeah, so we have some Hungarian friends who are joining. Currently, we just have them above 5.0. Obviously, there's plans to add quite a few interesting vehicles before that, but at the moment we have these for the later VRs. And so I think it makes sense. I mean, that was sort of the later kind of World War II era, kind of lacked a little bit for the cast. They had some fighters, the P-47, but not really too much reliability. So the Yak-9P is pretty good. You can mount the 37 in it. So for gun cast, it's pretty okay. IL-10 as well, same thing. Tu-2 is probably one of the most good and forgiving bombers in the whole game, so that's a really good option too. And you have the jets as well. Nice skins on them too. But currently, I don't think there's skins ready to show you, but a lot of them have alternates, which look pretty nice. See, I've got all these here too. You probably have the shiniest example.
I do indeed. Italy is also getting access to the Hungarian Jazz 39. It is a C variant, so it is similar to the other C variant we already had in the game. However, it does bring some new toys. In fact, you got some new Mavericks, the HM65G and the HM65H. Now, if I recall correctly, the G variant is basically, instead of the shaped charge you have in all the other Maverick variants, this is a semi-armor piercing HE warhead. So it behaves a bit more like a bomb than a shaped charge, which may be beneficial in some situations. There may be some overpressure here thanks to the high amount of explosive filler. At the same time, it may struggle a bit more with defeating very heavy armor. It is something you will have to try out on the dev server, whether you find this more reliable or not. You also have the H variant, which is, again, a shaped charge. However, this one does have a vastly improved optical tracking. Not an optical tracking, it's a CCD system, a tracking system, which was specifically designed to be more reliable in desert environments and should provide you more accuracy in War Thunder as well. Other than that, you have your standard Gripen loadouts. You have access to the AIM-9M as well as the combined flare pods, which will bring your total up to a great big number. You got some guided bombs, paveway 3 and paveway 2s, as well as these paveway 2s, and you still have access to your flare pods and your regular bombs. Should be a very good option, in fact, for top tier ground RB as a CAS option, as well as for general air superiority, and of course in air RB. The Gripen is an absolutely amazing fighter, which I absolutely love to use. Alright, next up, France.
France. Small AA friend for lower ranks, currently at 3.0. In terms of firepower, it's offensively identical to the M16 and other quad mounts, so it's pretty good there. It's nice to have, because before this point, the anti-airs that you had were not quite as easy to use as this one is going to be. It's a really forgiving mount. You've got a great volume of fire, great fire rate. There's a decent amount of damage as well to aircraft, despite just being a machine gun. But in terms of the difference between the previous 40mm anti-air, much more usable, which is nice. So the crew member is exposed at the top. You do have some more in the hull. Obviously, armor is not that impressive, but you can probably take a little bit of heavy machine gun fire and probably tank a couple of shots if they shoot right into the middle because it's full of dead space. So these two at the back are probably going to survive a decent amount of times when you get hit. So one-shotting it is quite hard. So it does have a decent amount of artificial survivability, which for an AA is actually pretty good. So yeah, I think it's going to be nice, definitely better than the M16. And it's a nice little anti-air vehicle that's going to suit you pretty well for the middle ranks until you get something better. Yeah, decently forgiving, nice to use, fits well in the lineup with 105 Sherman, your light tanks and stuff.
Why do all the tanks and stuff, they just look so stubby?
What a Sweden.
Can't
The
complain.
M60, 120S, this thing, they also look like boxes.
Well, I mean, it's a good shape. Can't complain about that. It's a nice
Chibi
little,
tanks.
little chibi tank.
Damn weaves. So this is why you got more body pillows.
Oh.
Anyway. France is in fact the second nation to get the Alpha Jet. So this is the E variant. I'm going to do a quick test flight just with the gun pod. You can actually run this thing completely naked without any gun pods or any armaments whatsoever, essentially turning it into a recreational jet plane without any countermeasures, any weapon, anything really. Let's have a quick look at the cockpit. Decent model, looks nice and clear. You do have some decent visibility behind you if you happen to be a sim player and you have some kind of head tracking. You should be able to look behind you fairly effectively. And now let's see what this thing can maneuver like. Roll rate is pretty good actually.
Oh my god, that
Very
movie
good.
is amazing.
Speed.
And turn is also decent. This is a fairly light tech aircraft.
Yeah.
So maneuverability overall should be pretty decent, as well as your roll rate. Speed isn't going to be the best, you're not really going to be going supersonic in this thing, but you are still jet at 9.0.
I heard you say
And of course you have your 27mm cannon, with not too much ammo, but a fair few seconds of firing
Yeah.
time. That should be fairly
The pod for it does look a bit weird though.
It does, yeah, it does. But yeah, there you go. Also,
Nice.
air brakes. Oh, that's a weird air brake position. Huh.
This is better than the Buccaneer.
Well, anything's better than the Buccaneer.
So true. So true.
Let's quickly see where this is in the attack tree before we move on to Sweden as well. In the attack tree, the Alpha Jet will occupy the position right in between the F-86K and the F-8E, and the armament, at least as it currently stands, is exactly the same as the German variant.
Very nice.
Alright,
Yep.
Sweden. What do you have for Sweden?
Sweden. I can show you the Christian 2, which is basically the same as the SCRV 121.
Yeah,
Some
it's
slight
pretty
differences. I believe this was sort of a... I think it came from trying to like modernize the 121s they had before the 122s came in, but they realized we just have 122s, so there's not really much point. But yeah, there's a couple of changes. The smoke related launch is different, different cover at the back, so functionally identical for the most part. Caminet as well. Yeah, it's nice. You've got a really strong lineup at 10.3. It's going to fit nicely there. And as well, like it's one of those vehicles that wouldn't really work in the tech tree because we already have enough vehicles that basically play the same way. So I think it's a perfect, another perfect top tier premium. Nice to have for the high ranks, and yeah,
Sweden's getting a bit scary as the higher ranks.
it's pretty meaty.
All right. Now, you may know I'm a big fan of the UH-60, the American Black Hawk helicopter. And I think I just found my new favorite. In the last update we introduced the DAP, the American attack version. Israel is also getting one. Chat, do you see something special about this particular helicopter by any chance? You don't get 4, you don't get 8, you don't get 12. You get 16 Spike ER, fire and forget missiles. Okay, let's have a look here, shall we? So, the first things first, we do have access to the Hellfire. The Hellfire one, start the event Hellfires with the 1200mm penetration, 10 warhead. Same range as the Spikes. Now, the Spikes have way less speed and they have a little bit less penetration. They are still a tandem heat warhead. The thing about the Spikes is they are completely autonomous. You don't need to keep your laser pointed at the target in order to hit. You can simply fire one of these missiles off at each enemy that you see and get back behind cover, which makes this a fairly potent weapons platform. We're going to take it into a quick test flight so I can show off this capability. Of course, mounted on a UH-60 platform. The UH-60 isn't, well, the best. It's not too maneuverable. It is fairly large. This started out life as a transport helicopter, really. Let's go into here. Alright, so let's see. We got some targets over there. How about, I don't know, we fire one over there. Just some tanks, want to fire some over there as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind, at least from my testing that I have done, the Spike ERs are not too reliable in their damage. So you may need to fire off 2 per target if you want to have a more reliable kill. But as you can see, you can kind of just fire them all off, and if you do have a radar SPA taking an interest in you, you can just go right back behind cover and not have to worry about your missiles, which will do their own thing.
Stuff.
Beautiful. So, Israel, you're eating good. Okay, now that is it for... Actually, no, it's not.
One final friend, a final friend. This is the new Israeli high tier premium. The Ram, I'm going to say it wrong. You know what it is? It's basically one of the Merkava 3s. I think it's similar to the D because it has the extra armor on the sides, like same to the American event vehicle version. So yeah, compared to these, it's got the extra armor on the side. But apart from that, it's very, very similar to the existing versions, at least offensively. You have more smoke grenades than you could ever need. It does have, this version of the vehicle does in real life have an APS system, but we don't have that in game because it wouldn't really fit very well. So basically what this does is if tank detects the laser, the turret will then turn towards where the laser's coming from and deploy the smokes automatically. In this game, that would not be too effective, and probably just, it's a way that you can sort of accidentally grief yourself by that feature. So that's not present with this particular version. But in terms of having a nice high-tier premium, it's offensively great. You've got the, a little bit more armor on the sides of the turret. Probably won't change too much, but there's going to be a couple of instances where it will probably save you. Yeah, it's nice. Cool looking. Looks very mean, like a lot of the top 2 ones.
It does. But again, to me, the Merkavas kind of all look very similar. I can't distinguish them very well.
Yeah, like so for a lot of the the intermediary versions, I'm not that good at it either. But yeah, this one definitely looks a lot meaner.
Alright, so that is it for vehicles for the time being. If you have some questions in the chat, now is the time to post them. We'll see if we can answer a few of them. There are a few more things to talk about, however. So, firstly, this is the attack position of the AH-60, the Israeli one, after the Lahatut at 11.3 as it currently stands. Again, keep in mind, bat ratings are placeholder. Things may still change by the time the update comes out. Now, we have talked about the fuel slider for aircraft. We've shown that on the F-20. It will be available to, I believe, all aircraft. In case you haven't seen it yet, you can now choose the exact amount of fuel that you want to take into battle. Not just test flights, also into actual battle. This is entirely integrated. Oh yeah, there's a new feature for Ground RB, which may be interesting for pilots. Have you ever been in the situation where you spawn your CAS aircrafts and you immediately get killed by someone who's camping your air spawn in Ground RB? Well, no longer. There will now be a protection zone similar to the one for tanks, which will show anyone who is camping your air spawn. So you have a, well, better chance of actually doing something instead of dying immediately. What else do we have? We have a tank fire rework. I need to check the data we have for that. I'm sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, I've not tested it. I believe it should tell you the amount of time the external fire is going to burn for, but I've not tested it.
As
So
far
I
as I
believe that's
understand,
what that
so there was this issue before where sometimes you took a hit, a fire, for example, an ammo blowout, which didn't give you a timer, and you couldn't extinguish it with a fire extinguisher. You would just burn for a while without any idea why you couldn't extinguish it or for how long you were going to burn. This will not change. There will be an interface that will tell you how long that fire will be active for, so you can prepare accordingly and plan out your repairs. But yeah, we also have reworked the way that shell reloading works on capture zones now. I can actually quickly show this maybe.
Yeah, that one's nice.
So you may recall from our presentation of the LOSAT, this particular vehicle had an issue where unless you fired off all the missiles, you could not reload your missiles on a capture zone. Now you can. And in fact, no longer does it take 5 minutes. As you are in a capture zone, even if you have only one missile missing, the capture zone will start the rearmament process. It does it way quicker now. And the interesting thing is, it doesn't matter if you fire off again, it doesn't interrupt your reload. It will continue, and it will replenish all of your missiles in one go. So it should make vehicles that have low ammo counts and that depend on reloading a lot more effective. SPA as well, this will also affect belts, missiles, tank shells, anything that had a previously clumped together reload that wouldn't initiate until you had all your ammo already expended, now can reload even if you only have fired off one munition. Should be fairly good. There are some new testing missions also. We can quickly check those out. Some new tutorial missions for guided munitions. Actually, maybe you can show off one of those. I don't think you've done them yet, so this will be a proper...
I don't know if I've got the keybinds for my mouse.
Should we keep on... We'll see. I mean, if you can't do it...
I think, because I have all of it on my shoulders. Well, shoulder buttons, on my actual shoulders. The Christian 2 has the same rounds as the 121, so they're the same.
Let's quickly check out the testing mission then, shall we? So you got new testing missions for the TV missiles, for laser guided bombs, for TV guided bombs, for all the good stuff. In fact, maybe we can check out the one on the Buccaneer. These are accessible via the modifications menu. So if you are ever encountering a new munition type you never tested before, you can now check them out. I believe this should cover now most, if not all, of the guided munition types.
Yep.
And let's have a quick look at the tutorial here. Alright, what will it tell us to do?
It's supposed to come out this
Okay, in my case I have the activate targeting point with my K button. Just switch to my camera, zoom in, which I can't in this particular aircraft, but that's fine. Activate the seeker, and launch.
Nice.
So yeah, it will teach you how to use guided munitions, it will teach you how to use missiles, bombs, both against aircraft and against ground targets. And it should be fairly good. Yeah, I can see this missile is fairly slow. There we go.
The Hungarian MiG-29, we can have a squiz at.
I don't believe he gets the R-73, sadly.
This is what you can take out.
You're gonna need to be high here soon.
At present.
Yes.
Oh, something that may be very interesting to the spookstons among you, maybe. Have you ever run into the situation where you had an amazing ground RB game and, well, you had enough spawn points for a nuke? But it meant you had to exit your current vehicle and then wait a few seconds until you could spawn
Your
a vehicle.
KD is ruined.
Yeah, your KD is ruined. Well, no more. We are introducing a new mechanic for the nuke aircraft in ground RB. It will now be a call-in directly from, well, your action button. You don't need to J out of your vehicle anymore. As soon as you get enough points, you can simply call it in, much like you do aircraft in arcade mode. there will be a short countdown timer, which will then teleport you directly into the cockpit of your nuclear bomber. Hopefully that'll allow you to be a bit quicker, and hopefully that will reduce the amount of times that you just ran out of time in the match before you can drop your nukes. But overall, it should also help your KD.
Speeds you up. And means you can now technically, I guess, nuke yourself. So.
True. I didn't think
curious.
about that. Okay, shall we have a quick last look at the new map as well?
Sure. Zoom around.
I'm going to bring something a little bit faster than the Fox.
Very well.
Since we are here, actually, hold on. Can't just show it to you quite yet. Gonna get into there, and I don't think there's anything I can't show here. Okay. There are multiple variants of the Holland map. It's called North Holland. You got the domination map. This, currently at least, as it is laid out, it cuts off this right side. So this is a no-go zone. This is also where the mall is. I believe actually the mall's over here. I don't know. It cuts off some of the sides here. Battle mode will use both sides of the river. And then you got also some single cap zones. And a regular domination as well. We can check out the battle map again. I will invite you real quick. I believe I can.
Thank you.
We can have a quick zoom around here.
Wonderful.
Alright, in the meantime, let's see. You will have to see the stream of our colleagues to check out the T80UD. And in fact, not just the T80UD, we have actually saved a few surprises. Namely something regarding replays, and
That's really cool.
That's actually really cool.
So I've got something quite cool.
You will have to watch while the stream as well to get access to that. Alright, here are the spawn layouts. There's one over here on the left side.
That's a 10.
I'll go on the other side.
Oh, crime, kind of. Yeah, the layout is somewhat reminiscent of Eastern Europe with the rivers snaking through the middle. At the same time, it does play entirely differently. The town is much bigger. You got an entire mall to play around with. And the river is also shallow enough to be able to drive through. You're not limited to only the bridges. You can just drive straight through the water.
There's lots of nice environmental detail as well for this map. Lots of stuff you can look at.
I'm so happy to see this, by the way. This is the car that I told myself as a kid was going to be the first car I ever buy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It's a Wagen Volks Cricket. Yes.
Wonderful.
Don't worry about it. Anyway. You got a little parking lot over here. Sadly, you can't actually make your way up to the second level. The access ramp to that has collapsed.
There'll be a way. There'll be a way.
Someone will always find a way. Let's be completely
I'll figure
fair
it out.
here. Here we have the mall again that Tom showed off earlier. Honestly, this is the most interesting aspect to me. It's something that's never really been done before. A building this big you can actually really explore.
Yeah, it's strange to go inside a building in a tank. Or in a, well, in your case, but...
But you really,
Yes.
it's really a tank.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, crumbling walls?
You know what?
Yes, you can go through those.
This is a good.
Absolutely no issue. Well, unless you're in a Type 93, which is very light.
Come on, funny.
But I can just ram my way through. Beautiful. And, well, I guess we do have to show it, don't we?
We should.
I don't know where exactly it is.
I do, sadly. Well, you're about to see. We have a nice little church over there. There's a particular aspect of Dutch culture which is represented here on this map. I guess you can count as a little Easter egg of sorts. Whereabouts is it? I think it's through here, then through here.
Got it memorized, he knows.
I'm not sure what that says about me.
I'm trying to find it.
Hey, look at this nice statue, it's nice. Yeah,
That's
okay,
alright.
it's so nice. Anyway, there's some weird lighting over here. I'm not sure what this is about, to be honest. It's weird. I mean, nice and moody. You can probably get some nice screenshots on here.
Yeah,
You know, should be fine.
sure.
Got some souvenirs, and you can rent a bike. You get a pharmacy, very important, very nice. I wonder how does it look at night, actually.
Oh yeah, we should have done that. That'll be plenty of time to test around.
Yeah, well, you guys can test it out yourself on the upcoming Death server, which I guess I should mention. Death server. We are planning on opening the Death server today. In fact, if all goes well, it should go live just around the time that this stream ends. So if you want to have a... That is menacing. You're just T-posing into the
It is quite, yeah.
Let me do the dev server. So I can try it.
It's an
Well, my friend,
aggressive
anyway,
vehicle.
Death Server,
I
you can check it out
leave
soon.
For work today.
I'm just gonna go away. Goodbye. You do look very cinematic.
Dude.
Ah!
I don't know if it'll let me access the new vehicles like it lets.
Alright. That looks similar. I wonder why. Don't worry, it's a watch for it's fine. Keep in mind, so everything we've shown you on this dev stream is not final iteration. There may still be things to come that are not ready yet. There is the upcoming dev server, which should hopefully get updated as well to include some of the new stuff. That is a very nice poster. Better ratings and all the good stuff is all placeholder. Keep that in mind.
I haven't played German in a minute.
I believe that is going to be it for us today. Unless chat has something very, very important that they need answered.
Perhaps.
God.
Waffle, for the time being, the Hungarian Gripen is the only one with the new missile. Doesn't mean that other aircraft cannot get it, but at the time, at least at the moment, it is the only one. The Su-25 SM3 modifications, we can have a quick look at that. I'll go back to the hangar and check it out.
This thing's gonna be deadly.
The TA-DUD is in fact here, but you'll have to watch the stream of our colleagues to watch that. And an interesting new feature with replays as well. A very cool feature with replays, in fact.
That's gonna be.
Alright, here are the modifications for the Su-25 SM3. It is fairly similar to the previous Su-25, except you do get access to this new KH-38 missile. Right, Fox Freeze, I think we can talk about that actually. Fox Freeze, the medium-range active radar homing missiles. Not really coming this update just yet. We have talked about adding those at some point in the future. What we are going to do is have a testing event. I'm not sure if it will be ready for this dev server. It may be.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You'll have to watch out the news for that. But yeah, you will soon be able to test out the active radar homing missiles before we put them into the game proper.
Okay, I'll be down for that.
I'm just having a whale of a time driving around. It's too distracting. There's a lot of detail on this map. I really like it.
There is indeed. Alright, a quick overlook of the tech tree positions of the aircraft, the new Hungarian aircraft. Mentioning again, as Tom mentioned before, we are working on introducing some native Hungarian designs, just not yet. Okay, so IL-10, Tu-2, Yak-9P, you can see it on the screen of course. These are the locations of the Hungarian aircraft in the Italian tech tree. And once again, the JAS 39 is also unique in that it does get access to both a semi-armor piercing HE warhead, AGM-65 Maverick,
Pretty sure.
as well as a AGM-65 with still a shaped charged warhead, but with better tracking. This should be fairly good in Ground Lobby.
Good.
Well, I believe that is all that we have time for. Once again, reminder, we are planning on opening up the dev server today. You should be able to download it right now, and it should go live, if all goes well, right around in
the cereal box.
What? What did you just say?
Said, I thought you just said great. Like the
How high are you, sir?
frosted flakes. I'm pretty happy. This shit's good. If a man asks me why I'm smiling so much, baby, I'm so. I am so off my ass. My eyes can barely open. I'm. I'm very stoked. It's like.
Все, пускай в ефір. Здравствуйте, дорогие зрители. Вижу картинку, никаких призов, какие призы. У нас готовится сегодня показ грядущего обновления Альфа Страйк. Как обычно, пишите, слышно ли
Show
нас,
the T80
видно ли
first.
нас. Вот так вот. Кто в эфире, вы сейчас прямо видите на вашем
I
экране.
don't know what you're saying,
Вячеслав
but
Булаников
showed me
пришел в
the
нашу
T80
стримхату снова.
please.
Здравствуй, Слава.
Is there
Привет,
American
Костя.
American
Да, всем привет.
subtitles?
А раз он пришел, вы знаете, что будет дальше. Дальше будут
That's
новиночки
for nerds.
грядущего патча. Называется он
That's not
Альфа
it.
Страйк. Переключаемся
Yeah,
сразу на
it's on
экран
another
игры.
one. Okay, well,
Давайте.
never
По
mind.
доброй традиции напоминаю, что это не финальная версия грядущего обновления. Сверху
Yeah,
видите
I already
надпись
seen this.
«Тестовый сервер». Все, что вы сегодня увидите, может
Stuff
быть
I have seen
изменено,
that were not
улучшено
covered.
Доработано,
и
исправлено.
исправлено. Да. Новинок у нас сегодня хватает, как техники,
But
так
again, that
и
turret ring is gonna be
механик,
spot.
которые новые,
Да, давай
которые
я тоже расскажу
улучшат
про...
вашу жизнь. А сейчас я эту интродукцию свою закончу и замолчу.
У меня еще будет своя интродукция тоже. Давай.
Вот, хорошо, да. Пишите, как слышно. Слава не забывает четенько говорить, громко. Сейчас я посмотрю, что у нас тут. На других площадках вижу, идет YouTube, вижу, идет Twitch. Все в порядке, все в порядке. Спасибо зарядке. Давайте быстренько по звуку. Чё, как дела?
Да, как звук, скажите, пожалуйста.
Все покажем. Что будет, все покажем.
Угу.
Все, слышно отлично, значит, можем начинать. Супер.
Хорошо,
Погнали.
прекрасно. Я думаю, что вы уже были на стриме наших коллег на англоязычном. Там ребята показали по большей части новые новинки техники, контента, локацию. Мы тоже покажем, конечно, кое-что из этого. Может быть, что-то новое, что они не успели. Но у нас еще будет такое более говорильная часть, поскольку несколько вещей, которые они не показали, требуют обсуждения, объяснения и тому подобное. Вот. Давайте мы быстренько Я сейчас прокликаю свои вкладки. Вот вы можете посмотреть технику, какая новая добавлена. Ну и мы будем ее последовательно показывать. И, соответственно, вы можете уже писать там, что же следующим показать, и вот что будет больше, того будем наверное, переходить
Да.
постепенно и рассказывать. Да, вот США, Германия, СССР, Британия, Япония. Ну-ка, сразу берем.
Да, чуть-чуть поувереннее, по доброй
Чуть поувереннее.
традиции.
Хорошо. Я себя слышу очень хорошо, поэтому кажется, что нормально. Так, Китай. Италия, Венгрия.
They show Russia? I don't know, they were speeding through, I wasn't paying attention.
Британия. И вот что будет больше, того будем наверное, переходить
Да.
постепенно и рассказывать. Да, вот США, Германия, СССР, Британия,
Oh, the
Япония.
T80 are premium.
Ну-ка, сразу берем.
Them
Да, чуть-чуть
bastards.
поувереннее, по доброй
Чуть поувереннее.
традиции.
Хорошо. Я себя слышу очень хорошо, поэтому кажется, что нормально. Так, Китай. Италия, Венгрия,
This tank I'm
Франция,
gonna buy.
Швеция, Израиль.
Давай с
Probably.
Фокса, может, так, сразу.
Фокса с британского.
I don't know.
Да.
Давайте с Фокса, а потом еще начнем с него. Легкий такой бронеавтомобильчик, бронемашина. Видно, насколько небольшой по размерам, как все плотно здесь. Давайте
Нарисовано.
покажем модификации, покажем боеприпасы. Какие плюсы можно отметить? Довольно пробивная пушка. Маленькие размеры. Но минус тоже. Отсутствие стабилизатора. Очень специфичное орудие, стреляющее по кассетами по 3 снаряда. Вот. И не самая
Yeah, I've
подающаяся
seen this.
подвижность,
There's
но
much to talk
везде.
about.
На дорогу выездим, посмотрим. Дороги довольно неплохо ездит.
Так, все, тоже посмотрел, послушал. У нас порядок.
М?
Тоже посмотрел, послушал.
Хорошо. Ну вот, это пушка, да. Здесь нужно либо стрелять очень точно, либо стрелять по достаточно слабо бронированным целям, так чтобы снаряд там много чего на своем пути мог задевать, и чтобы у него достаточного пробития хватало урона.
То есть
Да,
мобильность
ход неплохой.
компенсируется необходимостью точно понимать, куда ты бьешь.
Да, конечно. Но вот маленькие размеры, то есть удобно разведку с нее делать, будет всякие задачи под это дело.
I'm smoking, babe, just for the start. What?
Почему снижена частота отправки сообщений в чат, чтобы мы могли найти вопросы, если будут по делу, и ответить? Каждое ваше сообщение обладает особой ценностью
Да,
благодаря...
иначе мы просто не будут с такой скоростью нести,
Да,
что это
да.
невозможно будет читать.
Поэтому выбирайте, что вы хотите написать.
Да, еще одна вещь, которая не новинка, но которая была обещана, про которую мы девблог делали, и которую сейчас мы в процессе, то есть она еще, так сказать, VIP, work in progress, но это обновление, актуализация бронирования Challenger 2, детализация. Заметно более детальная часть в области маски, где-то получила больше сильного габарита, где-то появились некоторые уязвимые зоны, но вот
My bad.
тут можно рассмотреть, вся эта часть была
I need to go to a
обновлена, она еще в процессе обновления, да, тут не обращайте внимания. Вот. Так что работа ведется, и к мажору все челленджеры вторые, как было мы обсуждали, получат уточненную модель бронирования, более точно. Так. Что, давай-то все-таки к американцам вернемся. Не знаю, показали ли ребята кабину, новые кабины вертолетов. Вот в это обновление мы сделали новые кабины для пачей, для всех. Пойдем пробный вылет покажем. Да, и тут же сразу видно новую фичу, которая была обещана в дорожной карте. Много всего, потому что было обещано в дорожной карте, уже можно будет посмотреть на дев-сервере. Мы расскажем, покажем. Но вот это вот первая возможность, как раньше, если вам удобно выбирать из подходящего списка, ну, либо делать ту загрузку топливом, которая вам более нравится в пределах минимальной и максимальной, как раньше.
Stop shooting paint on my fucking spine. This kid
В какой ветке будет Фокс? Не
М?
показали, по-моему. В какой ветке будет Фокс?
Ветки, где... Да, я чуть сдвину, что это лучше слышать. Где... вправо сейчас покажу. Там, где Яровская бронетехника расположена. Вот, значит, что мы видим? Сейчас я беру полз вертолетный. Какой интерфейс? Интерфейс в кабине, да. Да, тут, не знаю, может быть, не все в курсе, но вот такая возможность есть. Для тех машин, у которых есть свой собственный полноценная кабина и полноценная там индикация нашлемная, можно отключить игровой интерфейс вот этот вот, который общий для всех, ну, чтобы он не загромождал, не мешал и не дублировал. Что, во-первых, да, полностью детальная кабина. Во-вторых, патчевский индикатор нашлемный. Соответственно, тоже показывает пилотажную информацию, прицельную информацию, углы турели, много всего. Прицел, куда ракетами надо, сейчас мы сменим вооружение на ракетное. Ара, например. Можете выбрали, вот появился вот этот вот элемент, который показывает, куда будет лететь дары. Они могут целиться, стрелять.
So you don't care if they have kids?
Да, можно захватить также цель. Вот,
You don't
визуально,
care
вот.
if the girl has kids?
Видите, вот видите, галочка появляется, ну или также через оптику ее захватить, вот мы видим, рождается оптикой, ну и племя, точно так же вот он. Можно, да, обстрелять его. Такое вот приятное дополнение. Давайте сразу еще покажу кабину. Apache версия. Я тоже получил.
Let me use one and we'll be alright. Let me get paid.
И чуть-чуть капельку погромче.
Еще громче.
Вообще, да.
Когда мне нужно сделать как-то себя потише. Либо снять наушники. Возможно.
Я могу тебя выключить, твой голос.
Давай. Выключи, хорошо.
Да, ты пока полетай, а вот когда
Да,
летаешь,
да,
я
хорошо.
подойду. Подкачусь.
как мы видим, кабина немного другая, такое расположение приборов, мониторов и тому подобное. Ну, тот же самый шлем на целеуказание.
Так, сейчас я помогу тебе перестать себя слышать. Хоба.
Раз.
Хоба. Сейчас момент.
Alright, let's see how much. I got $30.
Ладно, неважно, Кость, давай не будем
What I'm sending you.
Send me 30.
Oh,
прерываться, может быть.
Yay!
Окей, хорошо, спасибо. Ну, а теперь вы подсказываете, когда слышно плохо меня будет, потому что теперь я себя не слышу.
Ну, теперь ты можешь точно говорить погромче.
no, wait. It's they didn't take it off.
Так, еще одну вещь, которую сразу хотел бы показать бы.
They never took it off.
Покажем на
Yeah.
примере Су-27. Уже которые решенные.
Freezing shit's on it still. Look at that.
Вот, на этом пресете уже тоже можно показать. То, что раньше те ракеты, которые были доступны изначально в самолете, когда пока он еще не открыты все модули,
Look at it.
они повторно не повторялись в секторе вооружения вместе с теми, которые открывались, и в том числе для одинаковых ракет. Ну, то есть вы в секторе вооружения видели сначала Р-73, а потом нажимая еще одну 73. Вот сейчас исправлено, вот сразу 6 ракет. Тоже было заявлено в дорожной карте, тоже исправили. Так,
Предлагаю, если ты не
Да, я не
против,
против.
сейчас перейти тогда к новинке в реплее.
плея.
Show us it.
Сейчас еще одну покажем, одну вещь небольшую, тоже, которую заодно покажем на примере вот советской новой новинки. Да, это...
Oh,
стоп.
okay.
Покажем,
So it's
где
nothing.
расположен Фокс.
It just looks like a TADU.
Фокс расположен здесь. Так, еще одна новинка, тоже небольшой. В настройках теперь появилась возможность вот в боевом интерфейсе, вот блок уничтожения техники, имена, тип боеприпасов, название полков. Ну, вот можем убрать тип боеприпасов. Потому что когда мы добавили эту фичу, часть игроков почему-то стало более сложно читать лог убийств. Ну и вот, теперь давайте сейчас. Вот как видим, есть имя, но боеприпас не указан, можем вернуть.
My wallet up there.
А теперь есть. Ну и заодно немного расскажем про Т-80УД.
I got you take my pill.
Новый премиумная машина будет за голду доступна
Gave me a fucking pill.
в клиенте. Что это такое? Ну, фактически это Т-80У в базовой версии без тепловизора,
Thing in your-
ПНВ, но с двигателем 6ТД. То есть это машина Харьковского завода. Соответственно, вместо газотурбинного двигателя поставлен был дизельный двигатель мощностью там тоже 1000 больших усиленных сил. Вот. Ну, как видим, танк все равно остался достаточно подвижным. Потому что 1000 лошадей, это ну, то есть заметно подвижнее, чем любая 72, например. Единственное, что, конечно, проблема, которая все советские танки преследуют с механической трансмиссией, да, это скорость заднего хода в 4 км в час. Но зато очень неплохое перекрытие динамической защиты и сама пассивная броня тоже. Она почти как у Т-80У с небольшим, давайте сейчас скажем, небольшим изменением, там чуть-чуть тоньше основной бронепакет. Вот. Не 50-50-50, а 50-35-50. Ну, это примерно там, на 5-10% меньше стойкости брони. Ну, также контакт 5, поэтому защита очень неплохая. Ну и набор боеприпасов здесь доступный. Включает манго. И относительно невысокий боевой рейтинг.
Yeah, this ain't gonna be OP at
Ну,
all.
такая вот машина, да.
The first.
Так,
Многие, да, обратите внимание, что минус 4 обратный ход.
Ну, я про это и сказал, да.
Пока что
есть недостатки, есть достоинства, да. Ну, брать его в сетап, вот, соответственно, там Т-80Б, Т-72Б, да, очень неплохо.
Вполне, так что минус 4 это тоже...
Да, своих, я думаю, своих поклонников найдет. Так, ну и что, пойдем в реплей, да? Пойдем
Да.
расскажем про новую большую фичу. Да, ее мы будем показывать в повторе. И
I took the precautions. Uh-oh. I'm gonna try to get me some Chipotle.
Это новинка, которая позволит вам максимально точно определять, как вы сбили противника, как противник сбил вас, куда летели ракеты, что происходило с вашими снарядами.
да, ну, во-первых, первое, которое сразу видимая доработка, мы добавили интерфейс RLS и SPO. В повторе раньше его не было. Тоже, соответственно, лучше, ну, упрощает, более делает наглядным. Можно смотреть, что происходило. Ну и второе, сама по себе это возможность. Да, сейчас мы чуть поближе подлетим. Я ее включу. На тех уровнях боевой техники, где большую роль начинают играть всякие приборы, сложное оружие, где бой идет на больших расстояниях и много зависит именно от технической части, есть такая проблема правильного понимания, вообще восприятия, что же происходит. Ну, например, как именно работает РЛС, куда она смотрит, какой у нее ширины луч, какую цель она сейчас ведет, подсвечивает. Вот это все, то, что под капотом игры скрыто. Да, мы, конечно, делаем разные, ну, вот индикаторы. Вот это, например, тоже. Этот индикатор отображает то, как, с каким периодичностью луч РЛС сканирует пространство. Здесь показывается, ну, то есть много всего. Но мы дополнительно решили сделать такой отдельный вид, который бы показывал более полно всю работу этих сложных систем. Вот он сейчас будет, вначале он будет доступен в повторах, потом, надеюсь, после того, как мы его отладим, выведем функционально доступный на необходимый уровень, тот, который будет всех удовлетворять, мы будем добавлять эту фичу более широко, возможно, и именно в игру, как часть, вот, например, такой килл-камеры. Ну вот что это такое? Давайте, вот включение сенсоров, отображение сенсоров, фильтр. В этом режиме включается отдельный свой рендер, который убирает всякие, ну, объекты, которые не особо важны. Сейчас он вырубает еще и выключает облака. Но мы планируем добавить также отдельное отображение облаков, потому что облака у нас препятствуют работе тепловых головок самонаведения. Поэтому тоже это будет важно. Вот. Соответственно, вот вы видите, да, как работает РЛС. То есть вот видно именно ширину луча, куда он в данный момент светит, что он там сканирует и тому подобное. Можно включить-выключить отображение наземных целей, там союзники, вот, например, да, есть фильтры различные, соответственно, вот можно наземку, соответственно, полностью убрать. Нужна. Вот я захватил цель, которая появилась на РЛС, да, вот видно, как луч сопровождает. А можно в любой момент переключаться. Да. Сейчас я произведу пуск ракеты, и мы тоже будем видеть, вот, да, вот мы видим параметры ракеты, как она сопровождает цель. То есть вот статус, то есть серая линия означает, что да, в данный момент ГСН самой ракеты видит цель, что она на нее наводится, ну, поскольку эти ракеты можно применять на большем расстоянии по радиокоррекции, то есть какую-то часть траектории ракеты может лететь и не видеть цель, а потом ее при подлете уже увидеть. Видно скорость, число махов, дистанция, которая до нее, пройденная дистанция, время жизни, ну и там так далее, и тому подобное. Можно убрать атаки, там, перегрузку, например, можно пока убрать. Можно включить свободную камеру, чуть ближе. Вот сейчас в клиентском повторе, ну, то есть клиентские повторы всегда содержат меньше информации, чтобы не увеличивать размер и не потребляемый трафик. Вот. Поэтому не до всех объектов есть полная информация. Но в данном случае вот мы знаем, что вот есть объект, он летит, на него даже наводится РЛС, ракета, но пока модель его не отображается. Ну, сейчас вот мы ее увидим почти уже, когда она будет сбита. Что ракета вот маневрирует. 30 секунд уже летит. Вот поражение самолета, вот мы его видим.
Alright, where does it say? 4 views. Oh.
Потеряна цель.
5.
А можно вернуться опять обратно в эту камеру. Ну и, соответственно, таким образом...
И видно, видно прямо от третьего лица, как работает РЛС.
Да-да-да. РЛС, ОЛС, когда вас будут облучать, соответственно, вы тоже будете видеть луч РЛС, который вас сопровождает и тому подобное. Видно, как по земле. Да, вот. Если я включу, соответственно, вид игрока, то я увижу, ну, собственно, свое, во-первых, свое, то, что я делал, то, как я камерой наблюдал, и работу, когда я включу там ракету, ну, сейчас смотрите, пока пытаюсь найти тут, оказывается, свои самолеты. Потом я вижу, что вот летит пар.
Baby, I can eat your food too. Shut up.
I can't get in it.
Oh, you're not getting nothing?
No, we ain't gonna have enough.
Вот я видел, домой пролетал кто-то. Да, вот, домой пролетал МиГ-19. Я решил его обстрелять.
I might not be getting this because it's too crazy.
Oh, it's Chick-fil-A.
Ew. Ew.
Но я вижу, что
Nasty.
нравится фича.
Нравится?
Да.
Ew.
Рады, что нравится.
Well, I'm pretty sure by the time they
Вот,
open up,
цель.
I'll have
РЛС
it.
захватил цель, да, видно.
Mhm.
Я выпустил. Ну, тепловую ракету уже выпустил, но самолет очень быстро летит, вот видно, да, 1700 километров в час, удаляет со скоростью 130 метров в секунду. Ну, тем более ракете вверх нужно лететь, не успеет она. Не хватит. Выдохнется раньше,
I've had a decision.
чем долетит до него.
Your choice.
А на данный момент это будет доступно.
Да, в повторах. Это будет доступно в повторах, но в дальнейшем мы надеемся применить такую, эту же технологию, возможно, когда вас будут сбивать. Ну, то есть в тот момент, когда вы сбиваете, вас сбивает, вы видите путь от сенсора до оружия, до попадания для игрока, который... ну вот, видите, тут уже...
Да, но, естественно, непосредственно в игровом процессе вам такого
Да,
не
естественно,
будет
да,
доступно.
да.
You go look. I'm
Такая вот
Oh.
фича.
Ставьте плюс, если вам понравилось, если не понравилось, тоже плюс поставьте. Dev-сервер, следите
Да.
за обновлениями в наших социальных сетях.
Dev-сервер планируется скоро, да. Я думаю, что, ну, там, через небольшой промежуток времени после окончания нашего стрима.
I can't.
Yes, you can. I'm Brittany.
Покажите технику. Сейчас мы
Да,
перейдем
давайте технику
далее
я
к
покажу, да.
технике.
Хотелось бы немного рассказать вот про самолет, про новый. Маик. Работает ветки СССР.
Это очень мощный самолет, который всем понравится.
Да, это...
11,7. Да, 11,7.
Да, первый самолет советской ветки, у которого есть тепловизионный сенсор, то есть тепловизор у нас стоит. Конечно, углы прокачки не такие шикарные, как у подвесных прицельных контейнеров, но компенсируется вот новым вооружением. Сейчас покажем, расскажем.
И также здесь, на примере этого самолета, покажем новую фичу
Мгм.
прицеливания.
Новая кабина. Собственно, вот этот вот экран телевизора, ну так называемый, это то, чем самолеты отличаются. Этим и еще одной возможностью тоже. Это Су-25 СМ-3, самая последняя версия 25-го. Установлена вот эта вот как раз оптическая прицельная система. Она ставится вместо стандартного старого лазерного дальномера целеуказателя клен. То есть в носу. Да, углы прокачки не очень хорошие. Можно показать, какие углы сейчас. Но при этом есть тепловизор, да. Ну вот видно. Вот влево, справа, вверх. Так, еще одна новая особенность именно самого самолета, а не оружия, это его система предупреждения об облучении новая и бортовой комплекс обороны, который вот, кстати, вот здесь видно, да? Видно ЛТЦ, сейчас работает от бортового комплекса обороны. То есть они умеют автоматически отстреливать ловушки, когда замечается выстрел ракетой по самолету. То есть оптические датчики вот здесь на хвосте, под хвостом вот эти вот, такая рожки, и спереди они засекают ультрафиолетовое излучение, которое в выхлопе ракетного двигателя, и, соответственно, понимают, что ракета летит к вам, и отстреливают ЛТЦ автоматически. Да, и, кстати, еще здесь вот тоже видно, что ЛТЦ добавлены еще и здесь, большого калибра. То есть они, так же, как на обычных Су-25 вот в этих гребнях, ну еще и внизу. Поэтому, да, самолет довольно защищен в плане тепловых ракет. Так, теперь расскажем про новую фичу управления. Так, что у нас есть, во-первых? Во-первых, обновили экран, прицельный экран телевизионных ракет, бомб и тому подобное. Вот эта вот рамка, которая есть внутри, она показывает поле зрения, которое у вас будет, когда вы включите зум, и, соответственно, увеличение. Да, вот столько она будет занимать. Дальше еще какая особенность есть. Если вы захватили там, точку, например, цель какую-то, ну вот сейчас вот ГСН захватила цель. Раньше вам для того, чтобы сменить цель, если вам это не нужно было, неинтересно, вам необходимо было отдельным контролом разблокировать ГСН. То есть вам нужно было две кнопки на пуск и на выключение ГСН. Сейчас вы можете просто, если вам это не нравится, вот есть индикатор, этот крестик. Вот, видите, при подводе границы он, прямоугольник начинает, признак захвата начинает моргать. Отвели, все, захват сорвался. Можно захватить следующую цель. И вторая, не знаю, успели вы заметить или нет, вторая особенность, то, что теперь при пуске одной ракеты у вас не выключается, вас не перебрасывает в кабину, а сразу можно вторую же ракету пускать по этой самой цели. Ну и еще одна фича, как раз, которая уже связана с управлением от третьего лица, скажем, это возможность как раз, вот выбрав такую ракету, включить от третьего лица кнопку пуска, и у вас появляется вот такой новый маркер зеленый, ну, понятно, зеленый зависит от настройки интерфейса, который позволяет вам понять, куда смотрят ГСН ракеты телевизионные, которые вы сейчас пытаетесь выстрелить, и заранее навести, например, ее. Ну, то есть вот мы наводим, она от мышки управляется, нужно навести, знаем, что цель где-то там примерно, да, нажимаем еще повторно кнопку пуска, появляется вот этот вот уже маркер захвата, соответственно, если направлена на цель, будет захвачена цель, если ракета может захватить только точку на земле, будет захвачена точка на земле, и повторное нажатие, еще одно пуск. Помазали.
О, попал, но не совсем.
Совсем. Ну и еще одна особенность, уже конкретно ракет вот этих Х-38. Ну, это новая универсальная ракета. Она была давно довольно разрабатывалась уже для замены Х-25, там Х-29, все их вместе. У нее довольно большая дальность пуска, но этот пуск можно производить в точку, которую вы отметили как вот точку прицеливания. Ну и, соответственно, точность прилета уже там, она не будет обеспечивать попадание в юнит. Ей нужен, вот, лазерному варианту нужен подсвет на финальном участке полета. Соответственно, как это можно применять? Опять мы сейчас много отлетим.
Shit. Well, he's up now.
Ой, далеко отлетели, да. Сколько расстояние? 10 километров. Вот. Поставим точку интереса, можем ее уточнить, например, через вот тепловизор, да, вот. Все, поставили. Вот она у нас есть. Теперь можем запустить ракету. При этом я вот сейчас сразу в настройках показываю. В летных настройках. Вот у меня вот эта опция выключена. Включать лазерный целеуказатель до пуска. То есть сейчас лазер с самолета не светит ракеты, а ракета летит по инерциальной системе, по спутниковой, вот примерно в ту точку. Соответственно, мы можем снизиться, мы можем пока маневрировать, да, то есть ограничивать. Ждать, соответственно, когда ракета будет подлетать. Вот он подлетает. Теперь мы включаем лазер. Лазер включен. И ракета... Ну, соответственно, так как дальность лазера по цвету тоже будет ограничена, то есть нельзя будет там с 20-30 километров пулять, там же светить. То есть технология будет такая, что с большой дистанции можно пустить, но лететь все равно примерно в сторону цели, ожидать, выскочить где-то там над высотой, и, соответственно, включить быстрый лазерный целеуказатель, попасть по цели и снова уйти отработать. Такой вот самолет.
Что, как вам наши новые фичи? Вот это просто для асов станет новой метатактикой, я уверен. А, подвес еще попросили показать.
Да, подвесов много. Ну и, кстати, заодно сразу же покажем другую фичу, которую тоже обещали, которая по дорожной карте. Вот видите, сколько новых типов испытать появилось, да? Вот испытать, испытать, испытать. Да, вот эта вот дальность пуска, она про дальность пуска именно по инерциальной системе, то есть неточная. Примерно в ту сторону, ну, не знаю, там даже можно базу, наверное, в авиационных боях или мост какой-нибудь поразить, и то, поскольку поставить ее максимально точно тяжело, без прицела, без оптики, то только дать изначальное какое-то первичное целеуказание, ну а потом уже, соответственно, работать так, как мы показали. Так, и вот эти вот все миссии, которые, как мы говорили, обучающие новые для сложного оружия, мы еще добавили в сейчас, курс обучения. Видите? Соответственно, тут их можно отдельно прям попробовать. Давайте какой-нибудь посмотрим.
Alright, I'm gonna end this stream, I'm not gonna lie, 'cause I ain't gonna really be showing nothing.